One evening, while taking the bus home, Sakura Sakurakōji witnesses a boy burning people to death with blue flames in the park. After she calls on a police officer to accompany her to the park, there appears to be no evidence of anything having happened, though Sakura remains adamant about what she saw. The following day at school, a new transfer student is assigned to her class and it turns out to be the same boy she saw in the park. Code Breaker 6 Rei Ōgami. Despite Sakura's questions, Ōgami provides a plausible explanation for his actions, but fails to convince her. Sakura meets Ōgami after school to discuss judging criminals' actions after the G Falcon Street gang kills a homeless man in the park. The following day, while visiting a stray dog in the park, Sakura witnesses the G Falcon gang attacking another person and intervenes. She manages to keep them at bay with her martial arts skills until she is stunned by a taser. The dog also tries to protect Sakura, but the gang members injure it badly. Just as Sakura is about to be killed, Ōgami appears. He then turns to the gang members and gives them an ultimatum: turn themselves in or die. They attack Ōgami using the second option. Ōgami uses his power of summoning blue flames to eliminate them all. Ōgami approaches the shocked Sakura and uses flames to kill her. Sakura awakens in her room the next morning after seemingly being killed by Ōgami. Sakura becomes cautious of Ōgami at school, despite him acting as if nothing happened the night before in front of their peers. Ōgami follows Sakura around school, causing her to avoid her friend Aoba Takatsu to protect herself from him. Code Breaker 3 Yuki 10 is given a picture of his opponent. Code Breaker 1 Hitomi. Sakura takes Ōgami to a crowded city square after school and tries to persuade him not to kill those men the previous night. However, she is still unable to accept that he can commit such acts without being emotionally affected. Ōgami explains his role as a code breaker who punishes evildoers using methods considered evil by others. Ōgami attempts to burn Sakura, who flees in fear. However, he does state that he will kill anyone to whom she confides his secret, prompting Sakura to keep an eye on him to ensure that he does not kill anyone else. Ōgami receives a call from a mysterious woman who asks why Sakura isn't dead. Ōgami responds that Sakura is a rare person who cannot be burned. Later, Yuki meets Hitomi, who possesses the power of electricity. Yuki attacks Hitomi with sound waves, but is stopped by Recode Agent 4 Yukihina, who can control ice. Sakura goes to school with Ōgami and finds her locker stuffed with love letters from other students. Misinterpretation of Sakura and Ōgami's desire to observe each other leads students to believe they are dating. Ōgami's jealousy towards Sakura leads to violence, but Sakura intervenes to prevent him from using his powers. While walking to the student council office with Ōgami, Sakura encounters Nenin Fujiwara, who fondles her breasts. Ōgami attempts to burn Nenin, mistaking her for someone else, but is stopped by Sakura. A mysterious boy is called to work with Ōgami, who then gives Sakura a puppy of the dog that tried to protect her at the park as a gift. Sakura and Ōgami visit a local Yakuza office, where he is offered a job selling drugs. However, Ōgami kills all Yakuza members and 2 corrupt police officers instead. Ōgami threatens to kill the drug victims, but Sakura intervenes and gives them hope. Ōgami approaches a car outside the Yakuza office with corrupt chief of police Takada inside, but pursues Takada when he flees. The mysterious boy from earlier is revealed to be Code Breaker 4 Toki Fujiwara, who uses his magnetic powers to blow up the car Takada was in. Ōgami appears before Eden, the Code Breaker Policy Governance Board, where he is given his next job to assassinate a politician named Tabata Shidru. Sakura wakes up in front of her house and is questioned by her parents about her recent behavior. Sakura lies to them, but her parents choose to overlook this aspect. When she comes outside of her house, she meets Toki, who walks with her to school. However, Ōgami suddenly appears and immediately begins to fight Toki, that is until Sakura stops the two. Sakura and Ōgami head to school after Toki leaves. At school, Sakura spots Toki, and she leaves class to find out what he is doing. Upon being discovered by teacher Miyuki Kanda, Toki lies that he is auditing the school and is allowed to stay. During lunch, it is revealed that Toki's older sister is Nenin, exhibiting similar characteristics. Ōgami and Toki later go on a job, and Sakura accidentally ends up tagging along. Ōgami reveals Toki's power is that of controlling magnetic fields, and this can move any metallic object. After breaking into a compound housing a government research facility for special abilities and dealing with the normal security guards, Ōgami and Toki engage in battle with 2 guards wearing large fueled backpacks, which allow them to have special abilities of wind and water. During the battle, the 2 guards are forced to retreat when their backpacks suddenly run dry, allowing Ōgami and Toki to continue with the mission. Inside the facility, Sakura learns that the code breakers are a government agency run directly under the command of the Prime Minister. The facility houses kids with special abilities hooked up to machines for close monitoring, in which the lower levels of the facility are used for experiments via dissections, having their organs removed and sold and their corpses placed in large preservative jars. Tabata is revealed to be the head of the research facility. The two guards return and resume their fight with Ōgami and Toki, who both discover that the backpacks each contained a child with special abilities, who each had a younger sibling among the failed experiments. The two children finally rest in peace when Ōgami and Toki kill the guards. Just as Ōgami is about to kill Tabata, his crippled daughter Chisa Shigeru appears. It turns out that Tabata performed such experiments in order to find suitable transplants for Chisa, who also has special abilities. Sakura tries to convince Ōgami not to kill Tabata, but Ōgami has no choice but to kill Tabata, who tried to attack him with a scalpel. Chisa passes out after Ōgami goads her to take revenge on him in the future, and Toki finds out that Hitomi is the real mastermind behind the research project. The remaining children are transported to another research facility, while Chisa receives medical attention. While Toki has lunch with the Prime Minister, who is actually his father, he is reminded that he became a code breaker in order to keep his sister Nenin away from his father in order to protect her. On their way to school, Sakura and Ōgami run into code breaker 5 Rui Prince Hakioji, who gives Ōgami orders to protect Sakura. At school, the class is acting strangely, which causes Ōgami to suspect that Sakura has exposed his secret as a code breaker. However, it turns out that the class was actually preparing a welcome party for Ōgami. At the same time, Toki is seen collapsing in pain in an alley someplace, and the Prime Minister is informed that a total of 43 agents have gone missing in search of Hitomi. Back at the party, the school is attacked by the 43 missing agents, whose dead bodies have been reanimated through the use of Hitomi's power. Ōgami momentarily collapses while fighting the dead agents. Kanda arrives to help, revealing herself as an agent of Eden assigned to Ōgami. Yuki also appears to assist them in fending off the attack. Code Breaker 2 Masayami Hike, a classmate of Sakura and Ōgami who habitually has tea in the most random of places, joins the fight as well and successfully defeats the agents using light manipulation. Toki is still shown collapsed in the alley, but now in the form of a child. Ōgami's collapse causes him to be in his lost form, a state which will last 24 hours due to the overuse of his powers. The symptoms vary for each code breaker, of which Ōgami suffers from hypothermia in his case. Sakura volunteers her house as a secure location for Ōgami to recover. When Sakura brings Yuki, Hike and Kanda there, they are welcomed by her father Gotoku Sakurakōji, head of the highly respected Yakuza clan called the Kizakura. After her cosplaying mother Yuki Sakurakōji brings them to the guest house, it is revealed that Toki, who is already there, is in his lost form called age regression, which explains his childlike appearance. While Ōgami is resting, the others have a feast together. At night, Hike informs Toki that Hitomi might be targeting both Ōgami and Sakura, but has no idea why. The next morning, Rui is ordered to go to Sakura's house to provide support for both Ōgami and Toki. When Hitomi raids Sakura's house in order to kidnap Sakura, the code breakers do their best to fight back against his electrical attacks. Hitomi then unleashes his full power against them, but Sakura jumps in front of his attack and is surprisingly unharmed. It turns out that Hitomi's attack was just a decoy to gather all the code breakers, thus leaving an opening for Yukihina to kidnap the Prime Minister. Yuki's lost form is revealed to be a cat. While the code breakers discuss what their next plan of action should be, Toki leaves, uninterested in rescuing his father. As the code breakers continue to discuss their plan, none except Ōgami have the convictions to kill their former leader. Toki goes to Nenin, who seems to remember him, but she suddenly reverts to her old self, unaware of who Toki is. While the Kizakura members who were injured during Hitomi's attack are being tended to their wounds, Sakura finds Ōgami looking at her family photo album. Ōgami is explained that Gotoku and Yuki adopted Sakura as a child after finding her outside on their doorstep one night with blood splattered all over her. Meanwhile, Yuki and Rui reminisce about when Hitomi used to be good. When Toki returns, Sakura and the other code breakers head out in search of Hitomi and the Prime Minister. At school, Kanda meets with several other faculty members, all of whom work for Eden as code breakers supporters. Since Kanda is a former subordinate of Hitomi, the plan is for her to use any possible remaining trust to kill Hitomi. After Rui meets with Hike at a bridge, he attacks her for figuring out that he is a part of Hitomi's scheme. Yuki, as Rui tries to keep the bridge from collapsing, witnesses Hike attack her from afar. Hike then appears to Sakura and tricks her into following him, leading her directly to Hitomi's hideout with the Prime Minister taken hostage. Hike exchanges her as a gesture of goodwill in order to join sides with Hitomi. While all the code breakers receive anonymous messages detailing Hitomi's location, Hitomi tells Sakura to sit back and wait for the plan to commence. But Sakura becomes angered when Hike mentions that he reduced Rui to a bloody mess. Yuki informs Ōgami of Hike's betrayal and the two proceed to Hitomi's hideout together. While Yuki holds off Hike, Ōgami proceeds to confront Hitomi and rescue Sakura. However, Ōgami is stopped by Kanda, who is under Hitomi's electrical control, yet Sakura eventually prevents Ōgami from killing Kanda. Hitomi shows his clock collection on the wall, each stopped at a time when a former code breaker was killed. Hitomi plans to execute the Prime Minister, but he first bombs the city full of civilians as a spectacle of exposing code breakers in order to recognize them as great heroes rather than dangerous outcasts. Ōgami disagrees with this cause and burns all the clocks, but as Ōgami proceeds to attack Hitomi, Yukihina arrives and intervenes, taking the Prime Minister with him. Although Ōgami is unable to do anything since his flames cannot melt Yukihina's ice, Toki arrives just in time to save Ōgami and Sakura from a barrage of ice. The hideout begins to collapse and everyone leaves. However, Sakura enters the car with Hitomi, Hike and Yukihina inside, hoping to prevent them from killing the Prime Minister. When Hitomi was 16 years old, he was inaugurated as Code Breaker 6, and due to his excellence at his job, he was considered a promotion. Hike was revealed as his senior at that time. 4 years later, Hitomi's unnamed partner, Code Breaker 5 at the time, was killed during an operation, and it is shown that his watch stopped working the moment he died. Hike promoted Hitomi as the new Code Breaker 5, but Hitomi was greatly troubled by his partner's death. 6 years later, being assigned to take out a terrorist coup of supernaturals, Hitomi, as Code Breaker 3, is distraught when the rest of his group except Hitomi died during the mission and only the leader rogue supernatural managed to escape. Hitomi, explaining to Hike that Code Breaker 6 at that time was killed by her own powers, requested him to investigate upon the matter. With Hitomi promoted to Code Breaker 1, he was tasked to train the recruited Code Breakers, initiating them as Code Breakers after their individual training sessions. However, Hitomi took concern for Ōgami's primary focus of eliminating evil without thought of any consequences. During a rescue mission with Ōgami and Toki, Hitomi is seen carrying a child, which was the real objective of the rescue mission. Hitomi later told Ōgami that their purpose should be protecting the powerless and not simply killing the wicked. On another job with the other Code Breakers, Hitomi finally killed the leader rogue supernatural to avenge the deaths of his former comrades. Hike later informed Hitomi that the Code Breakers could die if they overused their own powers numerous times, which was something Eden had kept them from knowing. Although Hitomi failed to reveal this to Ōgami, he silently vowed to get revenge on Eden. In the present, Hitomi announces to the public on Sky Tower that he will kill the Prime Minister and 50,000 other civilians across Japan. The Code Breakers continue to search for Hitomi, but are unsuccessful. As bombs continue to detonate throughout Japan, the Code Breakers, the Japanese government, and the Kizakura all receive anonymous emails detailing the locations of the bombs and Hitomi being found at Sky Tower. Toki and Kanda set off to Sky Tower while Yuki goes out to search for and disable as many bombs as he can. Ōgami arrives at Sky Tower first to rescue Sakura, but Hitomi catches him and engages him in an intense battle. Ōgami's blues flames are overwhelmed by Hitomi's electricity as a result. As Sakura manages to free herself, Hitomi reveals to them that the Prime Minister attempted to have Hitomi killed in order to prevent him from exposing the Code Breakers. Hitomi then states his desire to make a world where people with special abilities can live happy lives freely, not as government dogs. Toki and Kanda are stopped by Hike, who faces Toki in a fierce duel. The Japan government and the Kizakura begin to isolate locations with bombs, however they are short on personnel. Yukihina proceeds to rescue all children with special abilities in the research facility, only to be met by Rui, revealed to still be alive. Toki stands on the roof of Sky Tower where the Prime Minister is held captive with 20 minutes remaining. While fighting Yukihina, Rui vows to save the children from the research facility. Meanwhile, Hitomi reveals to Ōgami, who is standing on the brink of defeat, that the people that Ōgami has killed thus far were ones that had helped Hitomi in one way or another. Ōgami denies Hitomi's offer to join him, promising to protect the innocent until the very end. However, Ōgami goes into his lost form when he tries to attack Hitomi once more, but Sakura tries to protect him from Hitomi, who grabs her by the throat. Elsewhere, Gotoku and some Kizakura members approach a van broadcasting the signal for detonating bombs, but two boys with special abilities exit the van and begin attacking the group. As the timer reaches to 0, no detonation occurs. This is because Yuki found and destroyed the van, thanks to Hike, who also told Yuki where the research facility housing the children is located. Yuki arrives to help Rui, but Yukihina flees. Hike confronts Hitomi, believing that the plan has been dismantled. However, Hitomi reveals that he chose Sky Tower as a last resort in order to use his powers to detonate all the bombs throughout Japan. Toki finally rescues his father after threatening to kill him. Just as Hitomi is about to play his final trump card, Sky Tower is covered in Rui's shadow ability, and the rest of the code breakers arrive to stop Hitomi, who continues to rationalize his cause. Ōgami then re-enters the fight, removing his thumb ring, which causes his power to rise exponentially. In a flashback to his first training session with Hitomi, Ōgami's blue flames absorb Hitomi's strongest electricity blasts, causing both to collapse. Hitomi is getting close to his code, and as his own abilities begin to attack him. Ōgami defeats Hitomi in his attempt to continue his plan. As he lies defeated and says his final words to the code breakers, Hitomi encourages them to go public as the ones who defeated him in his plot. However, the Prime Minister appears and says otherwise, angering Hitomi. The code breakers stop Hitomi from killing the Prime Minister, and he dies in the arms of Ōgami. Ōgami leaves, justifying that Hitomi received what he deserved. Toki overhears the public praising the police department for disarming the bombs and killing Hitomi. Later, Hike and the Prime Minister discuss that they succeeded in having Ōgami battle Hitomi to draw out his true power. They are curious how this power will fare against the Seki. Sakura would be used to extinguish Ōgami's flames if he ever lost control. The Prime Minister coughs up blood after being shocked by an electrical spark. Sakura bids farewell to Yuki, Rui, and Toki, who are assigned separate missions, and mentions that Ōgami has already left. As Sakura returns to her normal life, Ōgami and Kanda go on a mission at an airport to battle a man with the special ability of wind. This is the end of my video, so please watching all of my anime recap series. Thanks for watching.